but in general, why do you think homeschooling moms burn out and quit and then decide to send their kids to public school? What do you think is the reason why? Is it a motivation thing or a systems thing? What do you think?
I love that question, and I've thought about it a lot.
Hi there, welcome. I'm very excited about today's interview. We have a very special guest, someone who I consider a homeschooling / life mentor, and that's Dr. Fred Ray Lybrand. He and his wife Jody are the creators of IndependentHomeschool.com, which is a website with lots of different courses. The most popular, I think, with RC families is the writing course, but there are several other great courses on there. And he and his wife homeschooled 5 children from birth to college, and they truly are a power couple. Between them, they have 2 BAs, 2 masters, and 1 doctorate. He also is a pastor for 25 years and currently is coaching and training business leaders. Now, their overall theme of their content is teaching them to learn how to learn. So thank you so much for being here, for doing this interview. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Karen, I'm excited to be here, especially if you're excited. I'll feed off of it.
Yes, and you really are such a blessing to the homeschool community because you give a lot of content away for free. Now, recently you started doing some live daily videos. So can you talk to us a little bit about what your intent is with those, what things you cover, and just kind of what you're doing right now?
Yeah, well, a lot of this has to do at the time of this taping. We're kind of in the middle of the, probably in the future, the early middle of the coronavirus pandemic challenge, whatever it's, well, however history rakes this, I don't know what it'll be like. But in doing that, it seemed like it would be a wise thing to do to begin just daily trying to give a little bit by, turning on a mic, and if I can have the technology do it and answer questions or talk about something with homeschool. There's just so much of this stuff I've studied and reflected on and had drummed into my head with having 5 kids, all the way to college, as well as teaching at college, teaching in a high school, et cetera. So I just thought it'd be fun to turn on the camera and talk about something that might be relevant on a daily basis. And we'll convert those into podcasts too, but just trying to, get the information out there, especially in this moment when so many people are reconsidering the game. And a lot of people are going to come over to homeschooling. There are a lot of people doing remote schooling. I wouldn't call that homeschooling. But in that moment, this just seems like an opportunity to kind of serve and promote the cause of developing independent learners.
Yes, and you have also a lot of a history, a big archive on your channel with lots of videos as well that people can check out. And are you still blogging?
I am. We just put up 10 blogs on the writing course blog and 28 on the independent homeschool blog. So yeah, we're doing that. A lot of these blogs I'm finding, I might do a short video, and my son's working with me now, and so it'll transcribe and he'll clean it up and put it on. So you have a written text, which some people like, and you can have the video listen, which some people like. So trying to make everybody happy. Left brainers, right brainers,
yes.
Visual people, word people, male, female. We're trying to make everybody happy.
Great. And so we picked 2 of your books this month for our house book club. Because I just couldn't pick one. You have so many great books. I had to at least narrow it down to 2. So The Absolute Quickest Way to Help Your Child Change, we're going to talk about that one, and The One Success Habit You Can't Do Without. Now, I'm sure you probably meant this in a more kind of business organizational way, but I thought this was actually extremely helpful to homeschooling families. What was your intended audience for this one, The One Success Habit?
It's everything that I do, I think, applies everywhere. Today I was online and I did a thing on focus, teaching kids to focus.
Yes, I saw that.
Okay. So one of the comments was somebody, they wrote, wow, I can use this in business too. So, I mean, wouldn't everything be that way if it's really useful?
Yes.
I mean, if it's useful, what would it matter? Business, coaching, symphony, arts, creative, it doesn't matter. All this stuff is, if it's principle driven, it's going to apply everywhere. This was especially in my mind. It's really individuals. It probably had a little more of a business focus in my mind, but it's more just for the individual. I know lots of moms have, I've had some of the coolest letters where they read this and they write me and say, okay, for the first time in my life, I cleaned up something or fixed some project that they were mortified about, that they haven't been able to do for years. And suddenly they went, oh, well, this isn't too hard.
Yes,
So,
you really do focus on that common sense approach to everything. And I think we need that more than ever. And so especially with parenting, like you talk about in the video, you give parents that permission and you give them back the power. And like you said, if they're good principles, they're going to carry over into all aspects of life. Because two of your main things here are behaviors are not removed, such as replaced, and behaviors have a reason. And you were intending that for children, but again, like you said, I could apply that to my life as well. It just all kind of has that carryover effect. So
one of my good friends, when we wrote this, was a veterinarian, and he used to give it to his clients for their dogs too.
I can see that.
The other most fun thing is I had lots of people that wrote me and shared that their kids had found the book and hid it. They didn't want their parents.
Oh, that's so funny.
Like they knew this actually would do something.
Yes. Yeah, you could rebrand this into all sorts of titles.
Well, and I probably do need to update it, but it's not out of date because it's principle driven. It's not like I'm spending a lot of energy with the newest psychological idea about kids or a bunch of cultural things. I'm saying, here's how they work as humans. They work for, zillions of years, thousands, whatever. And they work that way. And once you understand how they work, you can work it. It's really fun. And like you said, Karen, it is a principle. So here's an example. One of the principles I like to say in business is when two people are in charge, no one's in charge, right?
Yes.
But that's also true with kids. So when I would put the boys on a project, I had to put somebody in charge of the project or they would all vie and fight and argue and something else. So if two of them are in charge, nobody's in charge. If you go off and you have two older ones babysitting the younger ones, if you don't put somebody in charge, you'll have a conflict.
Yes. Very good. And so I want to go over and ask you how you came up with these incredible 4 questions. You call it the 4 magic questions in the book. What do I see? What do I want to see? How is what I see being encouraged? And how can I encourage what I want to see and discourage everything else? I can't even tell you how this book has helped me with my parenting and just generally enjoy my children, just really enjoy being around them. And, I think you recommended this book to me, didn't you? 12 Rules for Life.
Yep, I did.
One of the principles in there was don't let your kids do anything that makes you dislike them, correct?
Exactly.
And so you were ahead of your time here. Yes. Yeah. So can you explain how you came up with those questions?
Well, here's the trick. What I was going through now in that day and age, the stage I was at then, I was doing a lot of counseling with young families. Mm-hmm. So I was in a massive laboratory of all this work we were trying to do and trying to make sense of it. And somewhere along the way, maybe it's in my personality, I really, what I do is I try to figure out how something works and then work it. So I just want to know how it works. And to do that, what I do, this will sound weird, but if y'all will try this, it'll change your life. And that is to turn off the sound. So like a movie, if you turn off the sound on a movie, what's left?
Right.
Well, all this left
this with the coronavirus thing too, like mute the news.
Yeah. All that's left is the actions. And then out of the actions, you can start looking at it and coming up with an explanation of what's going on. The movies were silent, originally. Well, I started looking at our kids and others and counseling. Of course, I was reading and studying, and I'd had classes and, blah, blah, blah. But in sitting there looking at it, it seems to me that the easier explanation is more than likely right. That goes back to something called Occam's razor. So there's in history this idea of parsimony. The more complicated you make an explanation, the less likely it is to be true.
Yes.
So, if you've got a combination of child training, intergenerational sin problems, personality dynamics, they happen to be redhead and too many freckles on the right side of their face, and that's why they have tantrums, that's probably not it. That's a little complicated. So I basically quit thinking. I just would look at kids and I started thinking, maybe this is pretty simple, kind of a what gets rewarded gets done. Maybe kids are interacting in the environment in a way that is encouraging them to behave that way. And so when we started thinking that way, one of the first things I got Jody to do, and I did too, but I remember Jody wrestling with this, I would say, let's look at the kids and ask, how did I teach you this? How did I teach you this? And so then it wasn't on a blame game, but it was looking at the environment to say, why is the child behaving this way from just what's going on, what I've encouraged, discouraged, done, said, or whatever. And so as I played with that, I learned that questions are the way to get to new insights. And so as I played with it, all these questions came together. I found out later from a mentor of mine who actually liked this book, a mentor of a not particularly religious mentor of mine that did like this book. He said, what you're doing there is what they call a pivot technique, where you find out what something's going some way and you pivot in a new direction. So that's where those questions came from, because all I was doing is, well, what do I see without putting a story on it, without making up what it is? The baby, I have all these examples in the book, the baby. Something like you can say, my child is shy. That's a common one people do. But if you turn the sound off, don't put a story on it and some background commentator, my child hides behind me when meeting someone new. That's actually what you see. Mm-hmm. And the reason for that behavior could be any of a number of things, something internal to the kid, the environment, the situation, something that happened early on, maybe playing you. I don't know. Maybe who knows? Right. But learning to look at things more objectively and not impose a story on them is part of the key. And so that's how I started playing with it, because it was all about learning how to get a vision for what I wanted my child to do, to learn, whether it was behavior or politeness or cleaning their room or being helpful or anything. It was all about getting a vision in my head for that behavior and getting the vision in their head.
Right. And you kind of talk about it in this other book too. It's about asking the right questions, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So coming up with that right question, and this formula right here is so powerful because of that. So I was wondering go ahead.
One of the things I say in the book, one of my favorite examples, is the power of the right question does this. One of my favorite examples when I first was learning this was Pyrex and how they developed that. I don't know if you remember that story, but in developing Pyrex, one day a vice president was walking through the lab at Cornell or whatever the name of the company is that did Pyrex. They're walking through the lab and a beaker falls and breaks. And the vice president says, "Hey, glass breaks. Can't you do something about that?" Now, out of that came like 36 ways to keep glass from breaking, 6 of which were economical. They could make products out of. If he had asked the question wrong and said, "Why does glass break?" all you'd get is a big treatise on the dynamics, the physics of glass breaking. So when you look at a child and you ask something like, why are you misbehaving? That's different than, how can I help you behave right?
Right. Or like you said, how am I teaching you this?
Exactly. Yeah. How have I taught you this?
Yes. So I was wondering if we could go over 2 examples, probably the ones that are the most challenging for homeschooling parents, that probably seem the most difficult for them, and that is cheating and laziness. So let's take cheating. How would you apply the 4 magic questions to cheating?
Yeah, and I must, in full disclosure, we had 2 of our kids. Well, maybe they all did, but 2 got caught. Let's say it that way.
I think they all try it once, but like you said, if you just stop it, they won't do it anymore. But yes, I think it's probably a natural thing for most. Try to get away with it once.
So let's think about it. I mean, hypotheticals are always a little more frustrating to me because it's sort of made up, and
right.
It's not like real time. Do you have a real time example?
Real time example.
One of your kids cheating? I can certainly use one of mine, but if it's a real live example, we can interact with it better.
No, like you said, it happened once, and then I made them start the Saxon math book all over again, and it never happened again.
Exactly. So we'll just take that. Let's say math, because that was what we experienced. So in Saxon math, they started sneaking the answers or something like that, right?
Right.
So you can ask the question. The first question is, what do I see? And so what I see is a child who is sneaking answers in the back of the book. I'm not adding things like is so scared, is so frustrated, is so bad at math or whatever. Mm-hmm. All they're doing is getting answers from the back of the book and copying it onto their page. That's what I see, right?
Right.
Not much more to it, actually.
Right.
I could add when they do it, are they doing it with a cribbage sheet, or they're doing it later? They sneaking back in their books. They're, one of them brought a list of answers with them, like under their shirt or something, and they were taking the test together, and the others called them on it.
Yeah.
So what do I see? So what do I want to see? Well, this is where you have to, divorce yourself a little bit from what you're seeing. It's just a matter of vision. And so vision, the way I like to think about a vision is it's remembering the future you want. Okay.
Yes.
So it's still an imagination thing. And so you're creating a picture that you can then go back and remind yourself of. So you're really remembering it,
Yes.
So when I do that and I think about it, is you can say, well, I like my child not to cheat. Well, that's fine. But what does it look like? What do I want to see? I want to see my child, even if she or he is struggling, really mastering math because they're working through it and they're not cheating. They're showing their work and they're really grabbing the math. I want them to learn the math. That's why cheating's a problem. I didn't want them to make a good grade. I wanted them to learn the math, right?
Yes.
And so getting that clear in mind is creating a contrast, So the contrast is what I see is they're cheating. What I want to see is them learning math, right? Going through the process, learning math. So when you get that kind of tension, that creative tension in play, you can move to the third question, which is, how is what I see being encouraged? Now, this is tricky because somehow there's motivation inside the child that outward activity matches with. So it may not make sense to you to cheat, but it would make sense to them, Mm-hmm. So when you look at it that way, what you're trying to do is think through, how could this child be interpreting something as worth it? And so I look at it and I go, well, I'm thinking of Laura in particular. She wouldn't mind me sharing this, I don't think. She had brothers who were really good at math, older and younger. The youngest had a perfect SAT math score, and the oldest had almost. And then the middle son had not far from that. So there were 3 of them that were plenty good at math, all surrounding her. So that would be a fair bit of pressure if you're not a math person, which she's not exactly a math person. I have 1,200 names in my phone, and I know something about every one of these people. I could talk to them about how their life is, what's going on. So she's in marketing, sales, and promotion, worked for the St. Louis Cardinals, works for Rice University now. So that's her talent, but not math. So that I look at it and I go, okay, the environment could be part of the problem, so that she in this environment feels a terrible kind of pressure. I also thought, maybe we're encouraging it by pressing her too hard to be like, having the same standard for everyone. One of the principles I learned somewhere was you treat all the kids the same by treating each one differently, right? Mm-hmm. So you want to take to heart that sort of thing. So when I look at it and I say, how is it being encouraged? I could say I can see the pressure. And then if our standards are a pace that everybody's got to do a lesson a day or something, instead of slowing it down for where their skill level is, then we're going to have a problem. So as I looked at that, I'm pretty confident, even in that day, that's sort of what we're doing. Plus, we were encouraging it by having them check their own math.
Yes.
Whoops. And so we're adding a temptation to it, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So they're checking their own math. So as a result, we get to, well, how can I encourage what I want to see and discourage everything else? And it turned into, let's get you the number of problems you can do successfully. If it's just a few, that's fine. Let's do a few every day, and let's really learn this as far as, you can go. And then we started having, it could have been a check with Jody, but I know when they got older, they were allowed to check each other's math. So there was an accountability game. You'd have to get two of them cheating. That's going to be a little hard to do.
Yes.
Right. So as we thought that through, we're going to make the pressure. You don't have to be like your brothers, whatever. You need to be just measuring what you're learning. That's all that matters. It's not a matter of lessons and books and whatever. It's, are you learning, doing the problems we have set for you today in a reasonable amount of time, and are you really getting it down? So that's how we did it. And we started adding testing as well, because that could tell us if they weren't really getting it. That'll show cheating too. I didn't like the test in the early days because we had a child with cerebral palsy, and that kind of made me want to stay away from labeling too soon. Mm-hmm. But by the time 11, 12 came, we started testing. That also caught if people were missing things. Because if you cheat, you're going to miss things. Yeah. So as we put all those pieces together, we just then experimented with it. I would often write these down, put on the refrigerator. This is the new plan for math. You got to grade this way, this, that, whatever. But, and let's try it for a couple of months. And we're going to set a date in the calendar and sit down and say, how's this working now? So that's the way we do it. And we did start her over on the book. She had to learn it. Yeah. Yeah. And it wasn't just her. There was a him too.
So that's perfect. That's great. Now, the other example I had was laziness, which this one's kind of tricky too, because and you can understand this with, learning challenges and things. First of all, how would you know if it's just being lazy, unmotivated, or an issue of, like you said, treating everybody the same by treating them different, where you do have to make some allowances? So how would a parent kind of process all that with the 4 questions? The end result, obviously, is they want a child going along through the typical homeschooling day, but there could be struggles. So how did you approach that? Just keeping kids motivated, and then, also, like you said, treating them the same by treating each one different if there were any learning challenges.
Yeah, it's a really tricky question. I have one mentor that did personality tests, and she insisted there was no such thing as laziness. I think that would be an overstatement. But what she was trying to get at is that when people are motivated, they aren't lazy. And I've had our kids, one of our children writes and has written several novels, 4 or 5 now, and does a lot of things, illustrates and pen and ink and drawing, etc. But I've had on occasion years back, other kids talk about him as being lazy because he wasn't getting the kind of regular job they wanted to get, or what he was doing in school, or something going on. Right. And I had to point out, I said, you sit down and try to write a few novels. Yeah. That's not a lazy thing. That's just not a what you like to do thing.
Right. And
this is part of the problem. We can measure it by, there are some people, if you look at them, if people knew how many books I've read, in my lifetime I counted one time, and it was, I don't even believe it, but I have the math. It's well over 5,000 volumes.
Wow.
And I still read, it's just a thing. So am I lazy? No, I don't think. in that regard. But there are families that think anybody that sits and read a book is being lazy. I've counseled them because they grew up on a farm. And so work is physical, not
yes.
mental, right?
Right.
So we have a little bit of a problem with the definition. Nonetheless, you know, I don't think the question is so much about if they're lazy or not. It's like, again, it's when you try to get someone to quit doing something, or you have a goal that's a not goal.
Right.
It's not a goal. It's not a helpful thing. It's just something you're trying to remove. So, you know, for example, if you wanted your son to quit picking on his sister, let's just make up a stereotypical thing. Wanting him not to do that could be solved in a number of ways. He could pass away. He could be at the neighbors. He could be, you know, locked in his room gaming. He could be outside on a trip, and all those things, he's not bothering his sister. But that's not what you really want. What you really want is for him to be nice to his sister, to be noble and virtuous, to treat her with some respect and be a good brother to her, right?
Right.
So when you think about something like that with laziness, you know, if you look at a child and you see their, what would be an example of laziness? Just give me an example that you run across.
Not wanting to do the full, 2-page essay or 1-page essay.
Okay, not wanting to do the 2, or in our context, 3 or 5 or 6. I don't know, our essays were longer by the time I got older. But yeah, not wanting to write the essay. Okay, so if we go with what do I see, and we don't have, if you say they're lazy, well, you're already telling a story. You got the sound on the TV and some commentator saying, yeah, he's lazy, isn't he? Right? Well, all I see, if I look at that, is I see someone who is not writing their essay, who resists it. Now, maybe they argue, or maybe they're passive, or maybe they act like they forget. So somebody that forgets to work on their essay is different than somebody that brays against it. But really, I'm seeing that they are not wanting to write their essay. They're not actually writing it. I don't know about want. They're not writing it. Mm-hmm. So if we look at that and say, what do I see? They're not writing it. Well, what do I want to see? What would you want to see?
Front and back, double spaced.
Yeah, you want them writing it, right?
Yes.
That's what you want. So it's not really a thing about driving out laziness. It's really a matter of how do I build in them the discipline and the actions and the effort that the assignment requires.
Yes, exactly. The right question.
Yeah. So you're trying to build discipline, and discipline, I like to describe as itch is when you itch but don't scratch, right?
Yes.
So you have an unction to do one thing, but whatever. We wanted our kids to look at a writing assignment and go, oh, I don't feel like doing this. Oh, well, and then you just do it. It's because that's not really relevant. And so with parenting, with discipline in their lives, we have to externally impose it before it gets internalized and they just own it. Yes. You can see this with kids. You'll see all my kids. They did not like yard work. They didn't like cleaning their room. They didn't like doing household maintenance. They didn't like any of that. They were somewhat slobbish at times. It varied with them. And lo and behold, they've grown up, gotten married, and have their own kids, and they are meticulous.
With their homes.
It's ridiculous. Yeah. So somehow there's a reward structure that because they're paying for the house and it's their wooden floor and they don't want to scratch that, and you get the point. Right?
Yes. So actually, I do want to ask you about this. You talk about in the book how, the difference between manipulation and bribing. And, I always think about this with business as well. What is the fine line between manipulation and influence, right? And you talk about in the book, and like you're saying right now, it's for the benefit of that person that you're doing all these techniques with. That's the kind of the line there. Is it just benefiting you as a parent, or ultimately benefiting the child to, like you say, be happy adults? That's another thing you frequently say. You're not trying to raise like happy children. That's good if it happens, but it's happy adults, right?
Exactly. We want to raise happy adults. That's our goal.
Now,
Yeah.
I heard you say something today on your live that really made me think, because I think in the homeschooling community, we hear a lot about, well, just focus on their strengths, whatever, maybe they're the math person or the writing person, but you said, weaknesses do hold you back. So how do we approach this in homeschooling? Where's that balance?
Well, you got two questions or three you've thrown at me. One's on manipulation and one's on,
Yes.
right? So
Yes.
I've got the sound off. I'm just watching what you're doing.
Okay.
So what would you like me to answer first or try to?
Okay. Yes. Your thoughts on that: manipulation, bribing, influence, all of that.
So manipulation with human beings is largely when we use our behavior to force or control someone else's behavior, right?
Yes.
A lot of this has to do with motivation, though, too, because, I don't know, trying to make somebody's birthday a pleasant experience, you could consider that manipulative. Surprise, buy them presents they want, have a cake or whatever. And sometimes it doesn't work. We had one child that whatever we did for their birthday didn't work. But usually because we were out of state and he wasn't with his friends. And so it was just one of those things. But, let's take motivation.
Yes.
A newborn baby, you manipulate them. You put them in bed, you feed them a certain way. They're trying to manipulate you too a little bit, but you're really controlling their environment 100%. And if you don't, they'll die, right? Or get lost, one of the two. And so what does your motivation even matter there? I should be noble and good, a good mom, a good dad. But the fact is, if you're feeding them to shut them up or feeding them because you love to watch them eat, you're still feeding them. So yay team. So I wouldn't put that exactly in a manipulation role, because a lot of this is about the level at which the person is at to control their own lives, right?
Yes.
And so when you look at it that way, the nature of trying to influence your kids, I think, is one of those graphs that over time your control is diminishing and their responsibility is increasing. It's just constantly doing that. So how you're controlling behavior of a 5-year-old is going to be different than how you interact with a 12-year-old. And a lot of times parents get this really fouled up. I remember meeting with a couple that had some serious problems with their 16-year-old daughter. And as we talked and met, I finally realized, I said, y'all are the most amazing parents for 9-year-olds. And I explained why. And they had a 9-year-old too. I said, y'all are amazing at 9-year-old, but the problem is she's not 9 anymore. She's 16. And so you're in much different game with them of inviting them to make choices. It's more of a game of invitation, but manipulation is really that, does a person have the freedom to say no? So it's like selling. So salesmen, saleswomen, sales peeps, these people that won't take no for an answer, ever, never, what, never, that's just manipulation, because there's no respect in the game. However, if you know something you have that would really make a difference in their lives, you do want to be persuasive and winsome and try to share with them the benefits, etc. And so I think the trick is, to what extent are you inappropriately removing their ability to make a choice?
That's good.
So as long as you leave choice in it, manipulation is hardly in play. The rest of it's your own motives. What are you up to? What are you really trying to do? So if we looked at the media these days, we'd both get upset. So let's go on.
Okay, let's talk about one of the other things.
That's manipulation. Bad motives, bad actions, trying to control the way you think.
Yes. So I like that. We're trying to influence, not manipulate. So
and as your kids get older, Karen, I'm going to tell you this, and for all the listeners, just start using understand the nature of inviting. You invite them to do that. Would you like to do this? You're invited to do this. And if they say no, it's a no, right?
Right.
Don't then turn around and force it. Don't do that with your little kids. I hear this all the time. Do you want to take a bath? That's not the thing to say to a 3-year-old. You say bath time, right?
Yes.
Not giving them an option. do you want to eat this or that? Do you want this or that? I see this all the time. And I just think you people are making your lives really hard.
Harder than it should be.
Yeah.
Yes,
They're
exactly.
not ready for, they can't handle the responsibility.
So, and in your book, you talk about the importance of marriage. Actually, you said the absolute quickest way to help your child change is actually working on your marriage. That's kind of the secret weapon.
Yeah.
So, can you talk a little bit about that? Having been married for over 35 years, correct?
38.
38 years.
Yeah, the joke is we had 22 years of bliss and then we met each other. It's a Rodney Dangerfield joke.
Yeah. So could you talk a little bit about that? Because, with homeschooling families, it can get busy. Mom can get really tired. It's draining, overwhelming at times. You've been there. So can you talk a little bit about that? Why it should never take, your marriage should never take a backseat to such a busy family life?
Yeah, well, it's not just marriage. It's that relationship. Even a divorced mom and dad that figure out how to get along produces more health in the children than a couple that battles and fights, even if they're not married. So there's this relationship between mom and dad, and this is the game. The kids are reacting to it. It's called a family system. So the way they like to describe this in systems thinking is like a mobile over a child's bed.
Yes.
So if you pull down one part, it moves the whole thing.
Right.
So it's not like A causes B. It's A influences B, B influences D, D influences C, C's hitting A, A's hitting C back, C's hitting D, B. All these things are interacting. But the leverage in the system is that mom and dad relationship. They're already a family without kids or not. And a healthy mom and dad that love each other and make their relationship the centerpiece of the home gives incredible security to the kids. They're not worried about, are mom and dad going to stay together, that kind of thing. And so when Jody and I started making sense of that, we made our marriage the priority. And so we started doing things, crazy things, like the bedroom was not a family room anymore. That was our room.
Yes.
And the idea was we go in it and we can hide from these people. And then we come out smiling, hopefully, and they think, hey, I'm going to grow up and get me a spouse in one of them bedrooms. I don't know what it's about, but it looks like a good thing, right?
Yes, I remember you talking about how you wouldn't let your room be the hangout room, right? Kids weren't allowed to hang in, and if they wanted to come talk to you, they had to knock on the door. And so all those things, right, are really important.
Right. Well, and other little things like at church, we before tended to put the kids between us and corral them,
Yes.
It's a good safety move. I get it. But then we thought, that's not exactly modeling what we want to do. So we started sitting by each other and putting the kids on either side of them, mixing them up, however you had to do that.
Yes.
So that it made us the centerpiece of the game, right? So same thing with family meals. Instead of her at one end, me at the other in the adversarial position, it's us beside each other and everybody around, right?
Yes.
Which makes it very convenient because as they start moving away, you don't have to change seats,
and it's funny because so many of these stories and things from your books and courses, they just really stick with me. I don't know what it is about your presentation exactly. Maybe it's because you do the visual and the audio and everything, but it just really sticks with me. It's so disappointing when you read a good book and you think, I'm going to apply this to my life, and you even take notes, and then like 2 months later, you forget about it. But with your books and courses, for example, I still always think about how in your emotions course, you say, what is the story that you're telling yourself in your mind, and just change the story. So, I mean, that's something that I think about for myself. I remind my children of it all the time.
Would you like to know the trick?
Yes. What's the trick?
Okay. So the trick is, well, let me give an example. So comedians, okay, people that are people that are funny, right?
Yes.
So the ones that are funny are not funny to everybody. Not everybody thinks every comic is equally funny, so there's that. But what happens is you could be the kind of comic that is trying to figure out how to make the crowd laugh. And I think that's a lot of what goes on with communication. How do I get them to understand it? How do I get them to think about it? And I think that's a bad move. the really good comics are sharing things that they think are funny.
I like that. That's good.
They'd laugh by themselves. It's
Yeah.
just funny. So in my mind, what I'm doing in communication is I'm trying to make sense to me. And then I hope it splashes, you know?
Yes.
So I'm talking about things that make sense to me, and then I'm trying to share them in a way that hopefully will also make sense to you. A lot of times people don't make sense because they're so busy on the outside with the marketing game, they really haven't thought profoundly about what in the world they're talking about.
Right.
And I mean that in the kindest possible way.
Yes. No, I see it. Yeah, it's true. So let's change gears a little bit, talking about that, the one success habit. I love how you talked about in this book that there really is no bad system. All systems are effective at reaching whatever outcome they produce. So for moms that feel that whatever it is that they're doing at home is just not working, what would be that first mental step that they need to take to really create a system routine that's going to work for what they want?
All right. So this is really important. Systems.
Yes.
Systems are a combination of things that produce a result. They're working together. It's not exactly linear. It's an interplay. Just like when you cook, it's a system. Even though you throw things in order, it's still the combination of heat and moisture and stirring and time. It's this combination of things that's producing it. So like recipes are a really good example. When you taste the food and it doesn't taste good, what does that tell you?
You messed up along the way.
Probably messed up along the way. Now, if you keep doing it over and over again, you would have a really good system for producing something that tastes terrible, right?
Yes.
So it's consistently producing something that tastes terrible. This has happened on occasion. Years ago, I remember Jody, one day we had something and I said, this doesn't taste right. And I said, did you follow the recipe? She said, yeah. And so I said, would you get it out? And we started looking at it. And Jody, I can tell this story. Jody didn't have rice, so she swapped couscous for the rice. Right? Potato, couscous, quinoa, rice, whatever. It's a grainy thing. You know what's the difference? Well, apparently it makes a difference, right? So when you look at what's happening and you think something's wrong with your system, you're not thinking straight. You have a great system for producing this bad result, right?
Yes.
That's the game. And so once you understand that, you can start fixing the system. And if you want to fix a system or you want to create a new one of any kind, the trick is to start with simplicity. The simpler you can do it, the better, because the environment's going to interact and react with you and you're going to need to adjust it.
Yes.
It's just the way it happens. So what we try to do too often is figure out all the steps and have some meticulous sequence how all this is going to go. And it doesn't allow the learning to happen that happens with systems. So you try a little something and then you see how it goes and then you make an adjustment. And you try a little more, see how it goes, and you make an adjustment. That's the game.
You went over all of this, I would say, in your How to Homeschool in 30 Minutes a Day, right? That's your course that talks the most about this, about developing systems.
Absolutely. In the home.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's an entire course that shows you how to think about this stuff, and then going through real live examples of how we would build a process for different areas.
Yes.
So one of my favorite examples is my last two children. My first three children didn't fight that much because I committed to not raise lawyers. I went to law school and decided I didn't want any more lawyers in the family. So when they would have a conflict, I would say, y'all work it out. I don't really care who's right or wrong here, two of them or three of them. I don't care who's right or wrong. I'm not interested in justice. I'm not interested in right and wrong. I'm interested in quiet.
Yes.
And so if y'all don't figure it out, I'll just come up with some consequence for all of you. So they would go figure it out. The way you raise a lawyer is you have two of them that come to you, and you got to be the judge. You judge them, right? And one says this, and whoever argues better starts winning more, and you train them to be lawyers. That's how you do it.
Oh,
So on the second two, I started deciding to teach them some communication. I'd say, first understand and be understood, and show them a little communication stuff. And all that did is intensify some of their arguing. And it finally got to a point that I, in the South, would say flung a rod that, it's like torque the engine. I really got unhappy.
yeah.
And I realized, that what was going on, they were terrible at arguing. So I wasn't raising good lawyers. And I decided if I'm going to raise lawyers, I want good ones. I don't want bad ones. And so I looked at what was going on. What do you see? What do you want to see, et cetera?
Right.
And what I concluded was that all I need to do, just like in the parenting book, I need to set up a system or process that encourage what I want to see and discourage everything else. And once we set it up, pasted it on the refrigerator, explained it to them, had them say it back to me, for the remaining year and a half, they never had a fight that we know of. Not one. Instantly. So how do we do that? So it was a very simple process, because I was the headmaster of the school. And it worked like this. When y'all get in a conflict, we might warn you. But what's going to happen after we warn you, if you don't stop and go solve it yourselves, you're going to sit down and write an essay. And the essay is why he's wrong and I'm right. That's the essay. Then you're going to read it to the judge, because we're going to make you into good lawyers instead of crummy ones. And mom will be the judge or me. And whoever wins is going to get to go to Chewy's or somewhere and have tres leches, dessert. And whoever loses is going to move rocks in the backyard from one place we don't want the rocks to another place we don't want the rocks. So we'll have something to do next time.
Oh,
right?
wow. Yeah.
So that was that piece, right? I said, now on the other side, if you two go a month, y'all, we have 4 acres. You can go anywhere around here and argue out there, just not in the home, right?
Uh-huh.
But solve it. And I said, if you go a month with no conflicts, I'll give you an entire day off of school.
Wow.
And you can bank it. You can use it whenever you want to. And so they went away. And after about 5 months, I said, I can't do this anymore. Y'all have learned the lesson. And they started getting a little yippy. And I went, okay, essays are still in place. The day's off or not. And
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's good.
So it's setting up a procedure or a process. And this is what we do with all this stuff, whether it's nutrition or time or math or reading or writing, all these things. Once you automate them and set them up with a sequence or really a process,
yes,
nobody has to think anymore. You just know what to do. It doesn't have to be a thing.
Right.
It's just, it's automated.
I love that, because I think, a lot of parents will struggle with screen time and do I allow it today? Do I not allow it? Or nutrition. Like you said, just do the work once up front, and then you never have to think about it again. And your course is awesome for that. So I'll put a link below so you can check it out, because it is really great.
And remind, we want to remind everyone and remind your kids too. Everything's hard before it's easy.
Yes, I say that all the time because
but it's easy once you know how.
Yes, that is like a life motto of mine now.
Yeah, so don't be afraid that it's hard up front a little bit. That's the heavy lifting. But once it's set up, easy breathing.
Yes, you don't have to think about it. So let's talk about, you talk about in this book, motivation, right? How it's not just one thing. It's made up of here, there, deadline, and path, which I thought was really interesting. So how can, let's say, homeschool moms apply this and stay motivated while homeschooling, even when the deadline and the path seems never ending? Even with the Robinson curriculum, there's no grades and we go year round. So there's not even the whole get to the end of 3rd grade or 4th grade. So how can we apply that here, there, deadline, path to stay motivated?
Right. So I call this the delta of motivation. So it's like a triangle. I just went over this today, actually.
Yes.
So in this triangle, if you think about it that way, we have words here, there, deadlines at the bottom. So here's for me, the left side, there's on the right, deadline on the bottom, and then path in the middle. What that's about is there are 4 elements that go into motivation. And if you're missing one, you're going to have a motivational problem. Mm-hmm. And so here's how it works. There is kind of the vision we talked about. Where do you want to get to? What do you want? Here is where you are. So knowing that you are in a certain spot and want to get to one. Let's take reading. Okay. You want to get through homeschool, and your kids have read how many books?
From the RC list, or
I don't,
just
yeah,
in
who knows?
general? I don't
Hundreds,
know, hundreds.
right? Yeah. So we don't think about it in terms of that. We
How
think in
many?
terms of the next book.
Yes.
So on a smaller level, they're reading a book, let's say, Johnny Tremaine. That's one they like. I don't know if that's in Robinson. I can't remember. But it could be anything. Who cares? The Peppers, right? So
Yes.
they're on page 5, and it's a 114-page book or something like that. So the goal is to finish the book. That's the there. And knowing where you are is the here. So you're on page 14. Now, the problem is we got 2 more things that go into the motivation, and that is a deadline. So when do we want to get the book read by? And that can be hold on to that. Just the deadline could be the end of the day, the end of the week, because it's going to depend on the reading speed. Now we're dealing with the plan. If somebody doesn't have a plan, they don't do very well. But if you can have a child, if you know their reading speed roughly or how they should read, so if you give them an hour or 30 minutes and they should read, let's say 15 pages, right? 2 minutes a page. Let's say that's their speed. Then that's the aim. So you have, like, in 30 minutes, you need to read these pages. If you get through a little early, you can roam around, you can run outside for a minute and come back or something like that. But it's all of those. So you have a path. You're going to read a page. You're going to read. I used to read, the way I would read in high school is I could only do 10 pages at a time of some of these books I was having to read in high school, like the autobiography of Marie Curie. You can't read that. There's no possible way. There's no way if you don't take them bites. So a condensed goal, just like when you travel cross country, if you're going on a long trip, you're really just wanting to get to the next city, or get through that thing or get to that halfway point. It's the same game. So with reading, the plan is you're going to read segments of 10 pages or for so many minutes, and you're trying to get to a place and then another place, another place. It's going to be the same with math, the number of problems you're trying to do, etc.
Yes.
If it's a matter of, I remember the kids used to clean the homeschool room, game room kind of thing we had. And I would go in there and I would get them to picture with me what this will look like if it's cleaned up. So what would this look like? And they start comparing, what does it look like now? This is out, that's out, sloppy. What would it look like if it's clean? They'd be put up, they'd be sitting up straight, that kind of thing. I'd literally get them to talk that way. And then the plan would be, I would say, the plan is to put the big things up first and then the next biggest and then small, So we, at least if they got interrupted, we at least had some of the clutter out of the way. Yes. And I'd say, okay, y'all got 15 minutes and I'm going to come back to inspect. And so, boom, clock, boom. And they're all doing around. And I remember Laura saying, Dad's come, Dad's about to inspect. He's about to come. And so it's all a big thing. And I'd come inspect it and I'd point out, this didn't match our vision. Look at that, still that way. That's still that way. They'd tweak it and get it done. So in everything that's going on, it's that kind of game. Even if you want to get out of college in 4 years, that's a deadline. Completing college is a certain picture, right?
Yes.
Where are you? Freshman 101, right? And what's the path? The path is to keep meeting with my advisor and doing the required courses and some electives until the point that they say, we don't want to take your money anymore.
And I really like how you're big on that. Visualize it right from the beginning. Feel it, because then you'll act on it. It really is about action.
Well, you don't have a way to organize your actions if you don't have a picture of what you want.
Yes.
It's just like you go to a restaurant. This is why it takes so long. Well, you want to eat, right?
Yes.
And then inside of that, there's not much of a plan going on.
Right.
It's like maybe this, maybe that. What am I hungry for? Well, if you're hungry for everything, at least my experience.
Right.
So having a little bit of a strategy, that's why people that have favorites or next favorites, or I want to try something different, they actually have a way to think about it. Jody has a very simple method. She looks to the right column and looks at prices and gets down to something that she wouldn't hate if it was bad that she paid for it. That's how
Oh, that's very smart. So I do want to ask you with, the motivation, just, I know it's hard to say because every situation is different, but in general, why do you think homeschooling moms burn out and quit and then decide to send their kids to public school? What do you think is the reason why? Is it a motivation thing or a systems thing? What do you think?
I love that question. And I've thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
And I think that the answer is they're trying to compete with the school system.
Yeah.
So as long as you try to duplicate or replicate what the school system does, think about what you're having to do. You got to have a big building with lots of activities, and you've got to be all the teachers. So you've got to be a specialist in all the subjects, whether it's a music teacher, whether it's the math teacher, whether it's the reading teacher, whether it's the social, who cares, whatever the subjects are, science and this. When you're trying to do that, you're trying to be a human being that doesn't exist, or if they do, they wouldn't be friends with most of us,
Right.
So if you would quit trying to be the teacher and turn into the, not CEO, but CLO, Chief Learning Officer, that
Yes,
your
I like
goal
that.
is to cause them to learn, not to teach them.
Right.
Then you can get out of the game. So I've got a book about 80% finished that I'm going to finish. I will finish and have out this year on homeschooling. And my working title about all this is From Mommy Taught to Self-Taught.
Yes, that's
So,
great.
so yeah, if I can get moms and dads to quit trying to teach, but do try to cause to learn, how do you set it up so they're engaged in discovery for themselves? They're making sense of it for themselves instead of you trying to tell them and run it through their brain.
Right,
So
to spoon feed them.
I think that is the crux. That's the starting place. And then from there, they don't have consistent systems. They're just sporadic. And so they're catching behind. They aren't doing some things with their time of just putting a box there where the kids should read. And if they don't get their reading done, it'll be homework later. They just let them go and go and go, or math go and go and go. And so you're creating things that don't allow a way for the kids to focus. And so that is a bad 1-2 punch, bad system. And then you're trying to be all things to the kids that a school would be. You can't do it. You can't compete that way. It's a different methodology at homeschool. You want to cause those kids to become their own teachers. That's the game.
So how did your children do with that method, self-taught, going into college? Was it a very smooth transition for them?
None of our children had any problem in college. They might have had a problem with a class or two, challenge, depending on motivation and time and illness. Two of them got mono, different things can interfere. But no, my favorite thing was for Laura. She would, every time exams came up, in final exams every semester, she would always call us and said, "I just want to thank you one more time for homeschooling." She said, I'd say, "Why?" She said, "Well, I just did my work every day like we did growing up. And by the time exams came along, I just did some review and could take them. And all my friends were panicked, pulling all-nighters, trying to learn the whole course because they hadn't done any of the homework during the year."
Wow.
Yeah. So that's crazy. The other thing was common with several of them that said they discovered that the most amazing thing they learned from homeschooling is the ability to read and comprehend.
Wow.
Because they'd be in class and they'd have friends say, "How did you get all that?" When there's discussions. "How did you understand that? How do you do that?" And it's all they were doing is reading. They were just comprehending.
And you have a great course on reading comprehension too. I just did a video on this, how your acronym, which again is so easy to remember, PLAY, the pieces, links, and action. So I'm assuming you went through that with your children.
Yeah, some version. I didn't label it when I finally put the course together and realized what I'd been teaching them. I really think that's the best course I've got, honestly.
Yes,
I
it
think
is fantastic.
If people would take that reading comprehension course and really practice the process I take them through, their kids will be little geniuses at reading, because what it's designed to do is wire your brain to just naturally read
Yes.
instead of having to think about it.
It's even
So,
helpful for me in the age of
well,
distraction, you know?
shouldn't everything be helpful for all of
Yes.
us? You
Yes,
know, I mean, most of the
exactly.
problems we have as adults with learning or communication or memory or writing or anything, we learned as children. So the answers of how you would teach a child are going to be the actual right answers for how would you help an adult actually learn it. It's
Now,
all the same.
I do have a little side question for you on the whole college issue. Do you
Okay.
think college is different now than when your children were going in? I mean, and it's kind of like a little controversial question. You know, there's so much, you know, propaganda, social engineering, all of it. Would you feel comfortable sending your daughters off to college today, the world how it is today?
Well, my kids were in college not that long ago. The oldest is 32, so it's just 10 years ago. All of them, most of them would say college was a waste of time. I didn't do blah 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 blah. And then I point out, but you wouldn't have the job you have without it. Okay, but they all went to the four boys went to the University of Texas, which is a bastion of, they call it down here, they call it the University of Sodom and Gomorrah. It's a
Wow.
bastion of liberalism and the crazies. You know, the motto for the city is keep Austin weird.
And your
And
children went through it, keeping their faith intact and everything?
they kept their, one of them, Holmes, I'd told that I would buy him. He'd gotten an advanced program down there. He transferred from North Texas to UT. It's after his freshman year. He didn't get accepted directly. He got in an honors program in another school, and then he could transfer. And he kept doing better and better and better. And he got married and had another year of school left. Like three of them did that. Had another year of school left and had the grades and had a job already lined up. And I was sitting there going, that boy is not going to be motivated. So I told him, I said,
Wow.
if you make straight A's these last two semesters, I'll buy you a school ring, which I didn't do for any of the other kids. And he said, okay. He made straight A's. And then when we got through, I said, all right, pick out the ring. He said, I don't want a ring. He said, I don't respect this. I don't respect this school enough to wear its ring.
Wow.
Now, he may have softened a little bit from
Yes.
that. But, you know, all the kids learn how to think for themselves, analyze things. One of the things we taught all the kids in Glenn, the relationship book, is you'll never be like the people you don't hang around. If you don't hang around drug dealers, you won't be like them. If you don't hang around smart people, don't worry, you won't be like them. If you don't hang around spiritual people, don't worry, you won't be spiritual. That's how it goes.
Yes.
And so they were very particular about who they connected with as friends. So they were picky about their friends. And then in college, we had them simply focused on do your homework. If you'll do your homework every day, you'll want to show up in class and show off, and you'll be ready for finals. So the whole trick is doing the homework. It's not about anything else. And they, and the way we look at it, God's kindness, were equipped with character and skills, and then they worked their way through school, and they all pretty much paid for their school. We couldn't do it.
Wow.
So we came up with a game plan for that. We helped some, but that's that's in our mind what we were aiming for. And all of them, they would all say Brooks had no business going to college because he didn't need it, but he made virtually straight A's and a double major in economics and math, finished in 3 years instead of 4.
Wow.
And got out and is doing something he probably could have done anyway without it, and programming, some business modeling stuff he does. But all of them will look back and say, oh, it was probably worth the experience. And I did, I got exposed to different ideas, and they would debate and argue them. Sometimes they call me, and, one day they called me about a particular issue, and I was giving all the arguments. I was animated, and I realized, oh no, I was in the church, and I had to go from office to office telling all the staff I wasn't mad. It was just a debate about campus. Nobody was in trouble. I don't need rumors going out there that pastor lid.
And I do appreciate your testimony and your perspective because, as a Christian, looking at the world out there, it can look a little scary and your children, putting them through something like that. But, you have a great testimony about it. And I also appreciate how, you don't shy away from certain books or movies. You talk about how you'd go see the movie and then you talk about it afterwards and how what you like, what you don't like about it, how it compares to your faith. So you have this approach where you don't have to just completely shy away from everything, cut everything off. You find value in kind of enjoying some things as a family and then talking about them. You think that's a better approach?
What we wanted, Karen, more than anything was just truth.
Yes.
I have a phrase that, very little, I don't put a lot of Christianity or religious stuff in our programs for a variety of reasons who we're trying to reach to, and that's just not what they're about. But I tell people I'm very willing to engage in a conversation about the resurrection. So my conviction, I'm having a doctorate in applied theology, so I thought about this a little bit. But, if somebody proved to me that the resurrection didn't happen, I'd be glad to know. Why would I want to spend my life believing a lie, right? So I'm willing to enter that conversation. However, you better bring your A game, because I actually have thought about this a little bit, and I'm quite convinced about the whole thing, right?
Yes.
So, but I'm not, we don't want the kids to be afraid of interacting with ideas. It's not like, it's not like being a fish in an aquarium and you get ick on you and it grows a disease. My goodness, you could think. You can find others that can help you think about it. And what people tend to do is they either overprotect their kids or don't teach them how to really analyze and understand stuff and think for themselves. So you can isolate them or they'll react against it and just go the other direction, And honestly, our kids are independent and they're grown, and it's very irritating because they don't ask me for anything. It just drives me crazy, right?
That's the dream, right?
Well, it is. And I finally got to a place of apologizing to them for some of my frustrations that I expressed. And I realized one of my mistakes is I was trying to be proud of them. And so I have repented of that. I've told them all, I don't want to be proud of them because that means I could not be proud. And then that turns into manipulation and control and hints and whatever. Yes. So what I've replaced it with is I'm happy for them. So the youngest just bought a house in Austin, Texas. He and his wife, 23 years old, moving in. They gave us the video tour because we're all isolated. And I said, I'm not proud of you, but I'm so happy for you.
I like that. That's really good.
Yeah, it was a painful lesson.
So one last question I had about the road of honesty. And I was wondering if this was a little bit of reverse psychology that you had. How are we doing we're already over. Okay, last question.
We're good. You may just need to break this up into two.
Yes, I'll make some clips. So you talk about the road of honesty, which is I will do it, I may do it, or I will not do it, as part of your kind of to-do list, breaking it up in that way and being honest with yourself, right? And I wonder too, that really is a little bit of reverse psychology, because once I think, well, I just will not do it, then I was like, well, no, I will do it, So you kind of go from that change of subconsciously knowing you don't want to do it, but then once you say it out loud or you write it down, you want it more.
Yeah. So let me explain it for everybody listening, okay, or watching.
Yes.
So if you take a 3x5 and make two lines, and put it into thirds. So you have three columns. So one column will be will do, one will be may do, and one will be won't do. And it's for the day. You're trying to sort out, you feel overwhelmed.
Yes.
So you write everything in the maybe. It all starts in the maybe column. You just write them all down, what you want to do in the maybe, because it's a maybe. And then you start asking a simple question. You do this. You look at it and said, am I going to do this? And if you say, yes, I will do it, then you ask, really? And you go, yes. You go, really? And commonly when I do this to people, they go, no, I'm not going to do that today. Well, that's good to know, because now your energy's freed up. If you're just not going to get to it today, be honest about it.
Yes.
If in reverse psychology, you say, no, I've let that go long enough, I will do it. Because human beings know what they will and won't do, right? Yes. They just know it. You know, will you feed your kids tonight?
Yes.
Okay. Will you edit this and get it up today?
No.
Yeah. Okay, good. You seem to know. Very
Yes.
nice. And you don't have to pretend by making this massive list that overwhelms you that you can't possibly get to with no boundary and no focus, this limitless, never-ending infinity agenda of this massive list that'll exhaust you. You can just start being honest about, am I going to do this or not? And so when you do that, your list will narrow down. Some things will stay maybe, many things will go to will not, and then the top ones that you will do that day will be the things you can focus on.
Yes. So I wanted to ask you, applying that to homeschooling moms, right? Maybe it feels like we have another category. Like, I really wanted to do it, but it just didn't happen. Like the kids got sick, one of the kids got sick, or your errands ran long, or the laundry didn't get put away. You know, we have just the typical mom guilt about it. But so do you think it's a matter of redesigning the system, or understanding that some days it is what it is, chalk it up and just try again the next day, or realize that the caseload is too much, you have to try to find things to take off the list?
Yeah, we're all terrible at being aware of what we're doing with time. So I one of the things I like to do recently is work in 10-minute segments.
Mm-hmm.
And I always overestimate what I can do in 10 minutes. It focuses me a lot, but I am just terrible at guessing. So on this issue, the real trick is you might do this will do list, will do, may do, won't do in the morning. But the thing is, you might need to revisit it at noon or in the afternoon, because you actually can change your mind. It's okay being a human being.
Yes.
And having a sense, I will do it today. And it's not, I'm committing. I'm not asking you to commit. I'm asking you to be honest. Will you or not? Will you not? You know?
Yes.
And so if things happen, a crisis happens, you know, a neighbor down the street passed away, the dog broke out, you know, the hot water heater blew up, you know, things happen. Well, you can revisit your list and adjust it, right?
Yes.
So it's usually a problem of not what your commitment or your view was in the morning, but there were things that came in that just overrode it. I mean, quite frankly, I've wanted to be out of the house a lot more than I've been, but they've got this little semi against the law to go out now with the coronavirus, you know,
Right.
So that sort of cramps my style, way it goes.
Yes. So it's okay to be a little flexible. I like the idea of that, revisiting it like after lunch and then being honest again with yourself. It's not always a matter of motivation or willpower. It's just like you said, being honest with yourself.
Yeah. If you're not going to do anything but lay around and watch Netflix and eat bonbons, is that a thing still?
I don't think so.
Then admit it. You're a lot better off saying, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to be a big fat slob and I'm going to lay on the couch and I'm just going to eat bonbons and the kids can do whatever they want to, because that's what I'm doing. Well, praise the Lord and hallelujah. You've at least been honest. That's something we can work with.
Yes.
You know?
And I like your idea of buffer days. And that is something, you know, I didn't know I already do, like the first of the month, cleaning out the computer and organizing the files, and just little things that can slow you as time goes on, as these things keep building up. It's okay to just have buffer days, right?
Yeah. And I stole that from, I quote him, I think, Dan Sullivan. So I don't get credit for it, but it is, you know, a cleanup day, a buffer day where you're not doing your most intense work, but it's an opportunity to catch up. I bet that would be kind of a fun thing to do occasionally with homeschool,
Yes.
once a month or every other week. Just have a day that we need to do some catching up, whether it's recording stuff or some finishing up something. I don't know, but it might be something useful.
Yes, I think it's very useful. Okay, so those are the questions I had. And again, if the two books that we're recommending people to read, The Absolute Quickest Way to Help Your Child Change and The One Success Habit. But you also have written, and I really like this, the lessons that you have here. This is a really powerful book too, about life and Uganda, Insights from a Short-Term Pilgrim. This is from your missionary trip, correct?
Yeah.
And then Glenn, this one's a fictional book, right? This one's next that I'm going to read, like your more creative book, would you say?
It's a lot of fun. Most people, when they read it twice, especially teenagers. because
Yes.
they want to get through the story. I didn't give any off ramps. It's not organized by chapters. It's organized in a different way. So it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of organized by chapters. It has them in there, but it's not, you just have to read it. But the, the nature of it is you want to get through the story, but then you want to go back. There's a lot in there all about communication and relationships. So you want to go back and pay attention to these lessons that deal with everything from, marriage and dating and courting, all these things that we hear about. So, yeah, so it was a lot of fun.
And these are all available on Amazon, correct?
They are.
Yes. And could you just tell us a little bit about where people can find you, your websites and your YouTube channel handle name?
Yeah, the nice thing is just if you Google my name, I'm about the only one. If you Google Fred Ray Lybrand, I'm the only one in the world online.
Yes, on the internet.
So that makes it easy. So independenthomeschool.com, that can get you everywhere. So that's our main blog and our main site, and there's free stuff there, etc. The other is if you did the writing course Lybrand and just Googled it, you'd find it, but it's at advanced-writing-resources.com. So advancedwritingresources.com with dashes, and a lot of information in there. So from the homeschooling kind of ministry contribution side, that's where we are. Yes. And there's a YouTube channel. That's probably one of the better things. Just look up Independent Homeschool. It's the same thing.
And the courses, once you buy one, you have them forever, right? It's a lifetime thing.
Yeah. We have basically when you buy the course, you get it for life, even if your computer blows up or whatever else. So with the courses available, we only have 3. I'll probably make that reading comprehension available too. But after that, after you get a course, we have some options where you can access the whole library. They're like 13 courses technically. And so they're 60 hours of training and more being added. It's like too much, but it's really quite cool on running your emotions and memory and reading comprehension, all these different things. So once you get a course, you're kind of in the family, and then we give you kind of a family deal. That's the way the game works.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any final words that you'd like to share with us here?
Yeah, the one thing I would stress is I'd like to invite people to take on a philosophy of no failure. And so here's how you do it. You start thinking that you don't fail. You only do one of 2 things. You either win or you learn, okay? So everything that happens, you're either winning or you're learning. It's not about failure. Failure can only be defined as quitting. That's the only way you could define failure, because otherwise you're just in the process. Not everybody wins every football game or tennis match or prize award or whatever. I'm sorry. That's not how it works. So you're either winning or you're learning. And if you take that posture, you don't quit. It's just that getting there is in the future and it'll happen. And I think that perseverance, endurance of thinking that way is probably one of the more powerful things to get us to where we want to get to.
Yes. Thank you. And just thank you for the impact that you've had in my life and in homeschooling. And thank you for being the blessing that you are, you and your wife, Jody, to the homeschooling community and all the content that you really do give out for free. So I encourage everybody to go check it out. I will leave all the links in the description below. Thank you so much for being here today.
It was a blast, and thank you for all your amazing hard work. Just keep at it. There's a lot of folks that they just need a little more insight and they can get to a new place.
Yes, and maybe we can let people know here, we can give a little teaser of a podcast that will be coming soon, Homeschooling Made Easy, where we're kind of do this and talk about some of the latest homeschooling news and articles. So look for that. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep. That'll be fun. Maybe we can get into a debate. Maybe find something we disagree about. So I can learn.
Yeah, I've studied, but yes, I'm ready to be challenged. Let's do it. That'll be fun.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much, Sal. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bless you. Bye-bye.